In this video, we're going to talk about some of the finer details of constructing a confidence interval. And we're going to do it all for a population mean so that we can focus on the concepts. So we're going to work with this example here. Suppose we know that the mean BMI across Canada is known to have a mean of 27.2 kilograms per meter squared. And we take a sample of 16 individuals from Vancouver. Now Vancouver is known to be a bit of a healthier city. And within that sample, suppose we find a sample mean of 25.2 with a sample standard deviation of 5. So we'd like to construct a confidence interval around this estimate here. And we learned earlier that we can do that using this formula here, and we built up the concepts of why this makes sense. So first let's talk about the assumptions. In order to use this formula here or construct this confidence interval, we need to have a few things met. So the first is that this assumes we have a simple random sample, and we're also going to assume that we have independent observations, meaning the BMI for person 1 is not dependent on the BMI for person 2, and so on. And then finally, the most important assumption is that either we have a large sample size and the guideline being greater than about 20, although this is just a rough guideline. Okay, the reality is the more symmetric BMIs are in the population, the smaller our sample size can be. The more skewed the distribution of BMI is, the larger our sample size needs to be. So 20 is a kind of rough guideline, but let's not get stuck on 19 being too small and 21 being adequate. So we need to have a large sample size, or the individuals need to be approximately normally distributed. Okay, and again here we mean if BMIs in the population follow a normal distribution, we don't need to have a large sample size in order to construct the confidence interval here. And it's also worth mentioning, while this is not an assumption, that this here is sensitive to outliers. Right, so a reminder, outliers can skew the mean, they can inflate the standard deviation. So first, let's go through and take a look at constructing a 95% confidence interval for the mean, and we're going to do this as a two-sided confidence interval. Okay, and shortly we'll talk about what we mean by two-sided versus one-sided confidence interval. Now I'm going to do this in the context of 95% confidence. You can change it to 90 or 99 or other values of confidence, and we'll look at that as well. In order to do that here, we're going to take our estimate of 25.2 plus or minus. Now, I'm going to start by using the rough value of 2 plus or minus 2 standard deviations. We'll look at what the exact value is in a moment, but let's keep that aside for now. Times the standard error of the mean, the standard deviation of the individuals in the sample divided by the square root of the sample size. And if we work this out, we're going to get plus or minus 2.5, and that's going to give us a confidence interval of 22.7 up to 27.7. So let's talk about what we can say about this confidence interval. Here we can say that we're 95% confident the population mean is between these two values here, 22.7 and 27.7. Technically, we should be using the exact t-value. We said that this will follow a t-distribution, not quite a normal distribution. If we were to use the exact t-value, we'd find that comes out to be 2.13. Okay, so we're going to know 25.2 plus or minus 2.13 times the standard error. Now you can see, if you do this, you'd end up with an interval of 22.54 up to 27.86. Okay, so first you can notice there's not much difference here. Okay, so from a practical point of view, it's not a big deal if we're using t or z. And once we get to constructing confidence intervals for more complicated estimates rather than just a mean, we're going to do it all using software. So the reason I'm using the rough value of 2 is so that we can focus on the concept of the confidence interval rather than focusing our attention on how do we look up the exact t-value in a t-table, okay, because that's not going to be an important skill. Another thing to note about this interval is that we're 95% confident that the population's mean is between 22.7 and 27.7, okay, the population of Vancouverites. So again, this interval doesn't tell us 95% of individuals will have a BMI in here. Okay, we're 95% confident the mean is in there. Another way you can think of this was if we took samples of size 16 from the population of Vancouver over and over again, constructed confidence intervals over and over again, we'd expect for every 100 confidence intervals, about 95 of them to have the true mean fall in those intervals. Okay, and again, it's important to remember the interval is random, the mean, the population mean is not. So we think of that as a fixed value. Our confidence interval is the random one, and it ends up containing the true mean or not containing the true mean. We're not actually sure if it does. We can only say we're 95% confident that it does. Let's talk about why we're saying we're 95% confident the population mean's in there, not that there's a 95% chance it is. Okay, so to do this, I like to use an analogy. So suppose I'm holding a lottery ticket in my hand. Sorry, I forgot to bring the actual lottery ticket I wanted to have here. But I'm holding a lottery ticket for a draw that's taking place tomorrow. Okay, and let's suppose that the chance or probability of winning this lottery is 95%. Okay, now no lottery in the world would have that high a chance of winning, but we're using that just so we can stick on this 95% number and not get distracted by that. So if I tell you I'm holding this ticket in my hand that's for the lottery draw tomorrow, it is correct for me to say there's a 95% chance this ticket wins the lottery. But suppose that the lottery ticket I'm holding in my hand is for the lottery draw that happened yesterday. Okay? But I haven't checked my numbers yet to see if it's a winner or a loser. Okay? In that instance, it would be incorrect for me to say there's a 95% chance this ticket I'm holding is a winner. Okay? This ticket has already been determined to either have won or have lost. I haven't checked the numbers, I don't know which it is yet, but I can say I'm 95% confident the ticket I'm holding for yesterday's draw is a winner. Okay, so same concept here. The true or population mean is in this interval or it's not. Okay, we think of it as a fixed value. There's not a probability that it's in there, but we can say we're 95% confident that it's in there. We can also use this confidence interval as a rough way to do a hypothesis test. Later we'll more formally talk about hypothesis testing, but for now, suppose we wanted to test, do we think that the mean BMI for Vancouverites is significantly lower than the population mean of Canada, which was 27.2. Here, looking at this interval, we can see that the mean for Canadians falls within this interval, our estimated interval for the mean for Vancouverites. So we're not going to be convinced that the mean for Vancouverites is significantly different from the population's mean. You also might notice this margin of error, which was 2.5. It may be a little bit too large to be useful. Okay, we might want to make it a little bit narrower. And in a separate video, we'll talk a little bit about controlling the margin of error. So now let's get into talking about building a 99% confidence interval, just to see what that looks like. And again, we're going to make it two-sided. So in order to construct this interval, we're going to go from our estimate of 25.2 plus or minus. Now, rather than reaching out 2 standard deviations of the mean or standard errors, we're going to reach out 2.58. Okay, and this is the value of z, okay, the normal, that captures approximately 99%. So for normal, approximately 99% of observations stay within plus or minus 2.58 standard errors of the mean. Again, multiply by the standard error. And we're going to end up with the interval 21.97 to 28.43. Okay, and here we'd say we're 99% confident that the population mean is within this interval here. Okay, and again, just to take note, if we wanted to use the exact t-value, okay, with degrees of freedom n minus 1, that would be plus or minus 2.95 standard errors. Okay, so again, it's not going to be a big difference from a practical point of view. Technically, we should be using this value, and once we start doing all this stuff with software, we will use the exact t-values. So the reason for using Z right now is so that we don't get distracted by how do we find a t-value from a t-table, okay, which is not an important skill. Finally, let's talk about the idea of making one-sided confidence intervals. And the reason for building a one-sided confidence interval is we may wish to get only an upper bound, okay, or a lower bound for the mean. So here we'll make it a 95% confidence interval, and we're going to find an upper bound for the mean. In order to do this, we're going to go from our estimate plus the amount of standard errors, the Z value or T value that has 95% below it. Times the standard error. Okay. So here, our estimate is 25.2. And if we look in the Z table, we'll find that the Z value of 1.64 has approximately 95% below it. Okay, so again, for a normally distributed variable, approximately 95% of observations are 1.64 standard deviations or standard errors above the mean or less. Again, multiply this by the standard error, and that is going to give us an upper bound of 27.25. Okay. So here we can say we're 95% confident that the mean BMI for Vancouverites is 27.25 or less. While we're often looking at estimates that are more complicated than just a simple mean, this stuff here helped us lay the foundation. Okay. For what is a confidence interval, how is it constructed? In general, while the estimates may change, they almost always take this form: an estimate plus or minus a t-value times the standard error of the estimate. Okay. Now we just may change what the estimate is. Rather than a mean, it might be a difference in means, or correlation, or odds ratios, or rate ratios. And when we do that, some of these parts might change slightly, but the underlying concept is always the same. Go from our estimate, tack on some margin of error. And as noted earlier, in the future we'll be doing all this stuff using software, so we don't really need to focus too much on the calculations, but it's important to understand the concepts.
Hope you guys liked the video. Stick around, guys, because we got lots more. Alright, this is my dad's video, and right now he's in work, so I'm talking. Would you like to talk about numbers or letters? Numbers? Alright.